Campus to Canton. Campus to Canton on the Better Sports Network.
Chris, I was asked by some of our subscribers at Campus to Canton in our Discord, how did we get the Better Sports Show? And I just told them we lied. We lied on our resume.
Basically, yeah.
Yet here we are. Felix, Sharpe, Chris Moxley. This is the Campus to Canton Show on Better Sports Network. Last week, we did a coach draft. We took the best coaches. It's only natural that we come back and take the worst. We're going to have a worst coach draft, Chris Moxley. And there's a lot of different ways that we could go with that. Worst coach.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited for that one. Trust me.
I am. It's hard. It's actually hard when I was looking like, who do I pick? It's hard. It might even be harder than taking the best coaches because there's a number of ways that you could define worst. We're going to get to a spring practice update. Chris Moxley is broadcasting from a submarine tonight. So don't mind his sound. This is how the show works. If it's your first time tuning in, we do our first segment and then come back from break. And if we do a good job, our producer, Will Chudy, he gives us good rejoin music. And if he doesn't like that first segment, we get honky tonk and the yakety sax coming back from break. It creates a lot of tension. So we'll see. So you can follow along at home. Chris, but I want to start with this. Social media, the internet, really nice, friendly place, Chris Moxley.
Very much so.
Very much
yes.
so.
Many people are saying.
Many are saying this. Many are saying this. It's a nice place. Many are saying this. We posted on our TikTok, Campus to Canton, a short of Chris Moxley discussing LSU wide receiver Malik Benson. A lot of people know Kayshon Boutte there. They actually have a very good duo. And Malik Benson Malik Neighbors. Malik Benson is an Alabama wide receiver. Malik Neighbors is the wide receiver at LSU. He statistically outperformed Kayshon Boutte this year, and is probably one of the reasons why Kayshon Boutte decided to declare for the NFL draft as opposed to going back for a senior season. It's because Malik Benson is, a very productive player. So we made some comments about Malik Neighbors' projection to the NFL, and the reaction was, what you'd expect from the internet. So we're going to listen to this sound, and then Chris Moxley. I mean, it's you talking. I think we're going to have you talking comments. It's almost like mean tweets. Except it's mean TikTok.
Mean
TikTok
replies. That's fine.
Will, whenever you're ready, give us that sound, and then we'll have Chris read the comments.
I did a little bit of today watching Malik Neighbors. What is Malik Neighbors really good at? Like, where is he above average at? Because I think the answer when I watch him is he's got the dog in him. So, like, he's a 61% contested catch rate. But for a guy who's like 6 foot, like, what does that really matter? Like, yeah, he's really aggressive at the catch point. And I actually think he's really, really good, and he's willing to outwork others. So I think that's like a trait in itself. But he's outside versatility. I'm not sure if he is a position where like he excels in one. Like 60th percentile yak, 63rd percentile dominator, 73rd percentile yards per team pass attempt. Like, those are fine numbers, but they're not like elite. And then StatsBomb pulled this number yesterday, which was 2.8 yards average separation, which is actually like really poor. I haven't found how much that translates to the NFL, so I don't want to make that the end all be all. But you really want like 3.5 to 3.8 yards per of yard separation per reception, and I don't see that on his film either. Like, I don't think he's a particularly good route runner. He's fine, and I think he maybe could be better. I don't think he runs great routes. Like, I think he's a 6 foot contested catch guy. And that he's not Tylan Wallace, but it reminds me of like a very similar prototype of like a short contested catch guy. Like, that's the best thing that he does.
That is incriminating on my end. But I think the reply.
Boy, you don't know nothing about no football, boy. You think you sitting there with them glasses, boy, and you think you know something about football. You don't even know nothing about football. You don't know nothing about them Tigers down here in the bayou. Why'd you stay up there, you dang Yankee? Stay up there wherever you is, up in New York City or something, boy. You don't know nothing about these LSU Tigers. Go Tigers, boy.
Go Tigers. So this was not well received, as you can imagine, among the LSU faithful. I'm gonna read a couple comments.
They were not reasonable. They were not reasonable. They were not reasonable in response to this.
No, they were a little heated. Stat nerds are annoying. True. Not gonna argue with that one. I can see where you would get that from. He's good at getting 1,000 yards per season. Also true. I also think of all the players that aren't good that got 1,000 yards receiving last year as well. This one hit a little tough. Grown ass man 122, who has 7 followers on TikTok, and he follows 8 accounts, and the 8 accounts he follows are all big booty accounts for what it's worth. I did the research, so who's the grown ass man now? He said, not sure what slow means in this context. A slow, bearded, overweight white guy with nasally voices should stick to print media. And Maddie followed up, who was also the one who commented about the 1,000-yard season. He said, I absolutely despise this analytic-obsessed sport fans. They never make good coaches for the reason they don't understand the human factor. Neighbors is a dog. I think the third word I said, or the third sentence I said, was that Malik Neighbors is a dog, which is, interesting in its own respect. But Mr. Assman, I just want to say, hard to disagree.
It's a cold world out here, Chris Moxley.
It's cold world. Listen, I know I have a nasally, not sexy radio voice. He doesn't have to do me like that. My Uber driver the other day, I think I told you about this. He said that you sound like Ben Shapiro, and he's lucky I didn't off myself that same night.
Do you have a Ben? Can you do a Ben Shapiro? Can you do a Ben Shapiro here on there?
It wouldn't be PG for this segment. But yes, I understand that I do not have a sexy radio voice, Mr. Assman.
You have to have a thick skin in this space, especially when you go after these fan bases, because they will come after you.
I didn't tell you that I told my wife about this, because when we were putting together our show sheet, I screenshotted it and put it in. I was like, this is pretty funny. Like, all things considered, it's a good roast, and she was like, oh my God, that's so horrible. And I was like, you got to see the stuff that people say online every single day. Like, this ain't even that bad. It's funny, right? Like, when you're in this space, and college fantasy and college football is such a unique space where tensions are so much more heightened when you're talking about a school, because the person that's either an alumni or they're like a lifelong fan. And so it's way more elevated than any other sport. So you got some savage people on the internet. So I've seen it for years now. I'm just immune to it. But they'll get you. They'll cut you deep if they have a chance.
Tell me if this is true. Of the fan bases that will attack you most viciously for saying something bad about one of their players, I think it has to be, first of all, the top 5 are all going to be in the SEC. Every single one.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, you could say something bad about a Vanderbilt player and get backlash.
I say one thing bad about AJ Swan, and they're in my DMs being like, oh, you don't even know what it was like to go to Vanderbilt, living in downtown Nashville, the struggle that he faced. So stuff like that, right? Like, the man isn't going to like 75 bachelorette parties every single weekend.
AJ Swan, a quarterback there. He's still there at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, AJ Swan will be the starter for Vanderbilt this year.
He'll be the starter
as a true True sophomore.
Sophomore, yeah. I got to think. So Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, those are right up there at the top.
Yeah. LSU is up there.
LSU is up there.
LSU fans are pretty savage.
LSU's up there. They will come after you.
Ohio State fans are really sensitive too. I know they're not in the SEC, but they will they'll get after you. Michigan fans are kind of the same way. Penn State fans are really bad too.
Michigan
State fans are even worse than Michigan fans.
Michigan
fans
they
have that little brother
have
syndrome.
really no right to be as entitled as some of these SEC teams. This is a team that doesn't recruit well, that's lucked in, has, schedule wise, has lucked into a couple of college football playoff appearances. They're going to go on another 10-year run where they just don't beat Ohio State because they don't recruit at the same level.
Well,
it's going to happen.
The thing with Michigan fans is, so this is like a explainer more than it is like a commentary, right? So Northern fans, essentially above the Mason-Dixon line, is really what it is. They are way more tied into their school that they went to than people in the South who, like, you'll get Joe Schmo who lives in a 400-person town in Mississippi, and he's a diehard Ole Miss fan who didn't even complete his GED. And he's like the biggest Mississippi State fan in the world. And like, you'll have these people who are just like diehards for essentially no reason. But when you talk about Northern football fans, a lot more of them have a real connection to the university. They went there, or maybe they grew up in Ann Arbor, like in Michigan, and so it's a little bit different. I think there's a lot more ties to the university than maybe.
It sounds like you're saying that Northern fans are smarter than these Southern fans. That's exactly what it sounds like you're saying.
I don't want to get canceled on this. I don't want to get canceled on this network. So I'm not going to say it like that. But what I will say is I think there's a lot more passion because I think Northern fans are more closely tied to the university than Joe Schmo who lives in some 500-person town in Mississippi.
Transition. We'll talk about one thing. You are going to get canceled. You're going to get us fired.
Dude, I'm surprised I didn't get us fired based on our last week's show. I never debate, so.
We talk about one thing around here. It's college football. And people don't understand that the spring is a college football season in and of itself because it's the spring practice season. So there's, and more every single year, more of these spring games are being broadcast on national television, on ESPN. Colorado's spring game with Deion Sanders is sold out. Sold out. The spring game is sold out. A-Day at Alabama, it'll be a large capacity. It won't be sold out. I mean, this is a big deal. These players are vying for position on the depth chart. You got freshmen who are trying to make a move. It's a big deal. And if you play in Dynasty Fantasy Football, it's a big deal even for your 2024 rookie picks because, who wins the job at Ohio State has an effect on your 2024 Dynasty rookie draft. It just does. It just does. So we want to get into some updates from spring practice. I think we're going to do this for for all of our shows as we're going here throughout the spring because it is important information. So let's get into, Chris Moxley, some of the what's happening around the country in spring camps.
Yeah, I think the most notable update as it applies to Campus2Canton college football dynasty leagues is the UCLA quarterback rotation. Ethan Garbers was the 1. Dante Moore was the 2. Justin Martin, who is a second-year quarterback, was the 3. And then transfer quarterback Colin Schley was the 4. Colin Schley was a starter at Kent State last year, a very productive player who is he has a good arm, he's athletic. I think he lifted like 600 pounds today. But that's a little bit surprising based on our expectations. Schley was unimpressive in the first practice. He threw 4 interceptions. could have had
Chris, let me stop
more.
you here for a second. Let's say hypothetically that somebody's listening to our show for the first time. UCLA has not been on the national map as far as being a school that you're paying attention to its quarterback job. Why, in this instance, should everyone around the country care about this depth chart, this quarterback depth chart, Chip Kelly's quarterback depth chart for UCLA?
Yeah, so Chip Kelly is the same coach who put Marcus Mariota into the NFL, and he actually started Marcus Mariota as a true freshman. He started Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's currently in the NFL draft cycle, as a true freshman as well. But Dante Moore is a 5-star quarterback coming out of Michigan, like a really, really talented and almost collegiate-ready player. And you don't see that a lot with freshman quarterbacks. He's very mature. He really understands the system. They were talking about him today in interviews about how he's really locked in and really understands what they're trying to run. And so this offense is pretty productive. And I think you want to be targeting quarterbacks in this offense just because what Chip Kelly's been able to do over time and how exceptional Dante Moore has been.
Yeah, I want to say this about Dante Moore. Out of Detroit King in Michigan, started as a freshman. So he was, oh my goodness, he was an 8th grader, okay, practicing with the team, going into the end of his 8th grade year before his 9th grade year, and won the job as a freshman at one of the big time football schools in the state of Michigan. Michigan not normally known for its high school football, but if you would ask anybody who the better teams are, Detroit King would be one, Muskegon would be another. And Dante Moore started as a freshman. This is a kid who gets the ball out of his hands so fast. As soon as he hits that third drop, the ball is out of his hands. And oftentimes the ball is out of his hands, and the wide receiver's not looking, the defenders aren't looking, but he just anticipates coverage, anticipates space, anticipates windows, and throws it into those windows and throws a very catchable ball. You can go back and look.
I don't think that I think the distinction that is important here too is that it is not a schemed up, you're going to go to this guy. It is him reading the play beforehand and then making those decisions as he drops back. Like, this is not a player who is schemed up to do X, Y, Z. And so I just want to add that context in terms of how good of a processor and mature play caller that he is.
There is a name that I want to say.
Say it.
That this guy reminds me of.
I know who you're going to say. Say it.
And I don't want to say it.
Say it.
There was a player in the NFL that I heard this story. There's a player in the NFL that when other teams, their front offices, I'm telling this story poorly. I'm trying to give the anecdote about how quickly this player gets rid of the football. All right. So Peyton Manning, whenever the Colts would draft a left tackle, other front office personnel in that division would be concerned because that left tackle would appear as though they're playing well. If they're drafted by the Colts, and they could be playing well, they could not be playing well. But Peyton Manning got rid of the ball so fast that it seems like this left tackle is just protecting his blind side. That is the type of processing ability that Dante Moore has. And
Dante Moore is Peyton Manning.
No, I'm not. Is that who you thought I was going to say?
Yeah. I think I've heard you made the comparison before. I think I've heard you make the comparison before.
And I don't want to say that because I've done this before with somebody else. But I'm not saying that he's going to have the career that Peyton Manning has. But Peyton Manning was known for, like, Peyton Manning didn't get touched because he got rid of the ball so quickly. That is what Dante Moore, that's how his game is. And he can throw the ball downfield. So he's in Los Angeles. And we're coming up against a break here. I didn't even let you get into the whole story about this update. We're coming into the break here. On the other side of the break, we'll talk about what's happening in Los Angeles in Chip Kelly's spring camp and what else to look forward to in the spring. It's Felix Sharpe, Chris Moxley. This is Campus to Canton on Better Sports Network.
Campus to Canton. Talk sports with Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Better Sports Network.
Let me say something about Tiger. Tiger has had to redesign his entire swing. Tiger has a difference in the length of his legs because of that horrible accident. In golf, there's no hey, you can't walk the greens. You have to take a cart. So I assumed by day 3 on Sunday, the inflammation would start. He took a couple breaks where they take care of his back a little bit. But it is fascinating watching him. And so it gave me this thought, is he that skilled at golf? Or is this a mental thing of dedication and determination? He is so dedicated to the sport that no matter what, he's relentless to it. And the dedication and determination goes to the golf, the swing, the playing, the walking, but it goes to his overall health. The average person who doesn't stay in great shape, gets in an accident like that, goes through multiple surgeries, is not recovering and going out there to walk. And that course has some pretty steep inclines, a lot of walking. I mean, how else can you factor these athletes, the Michael Jordans, the LeBrons, these players that their whole focus is really optimal health, optimal body skills, and then what comes next is being the best at what they do.
I think you just hit on why Tiger still has that drive. I don't know this. I don't know the man. It could just be love of the game. It could be, I want to make as much money as I can while playing. Could be all this stuff. But LA, a lot of people think Tiger Woods is the GOAT of golf. And I don't understand how you can be the GOAT of golf when you are 3 majors short of Jack Nicklaus. Okay? So LeBron, I don't think he cares what guys like me say anymore, right? He's past Kareem. He thinks he's the GOAT. I mean, he's 3rd on my list. He's in the debate. Many other people think he's the GOAT. He's not my GOAT. You know what I mean? So I wonder if Tiger is there, like LeBron, I don't care what the pundits, what the barbershops say. I'm the GOAT. I don't have to do anything more. This is all gravy. I wonder if Tiger looks at it that way.
I don't know what Tiger's mindset is in the GOAT status, but when players talk about what it's like to be at a tournament, when Tiger's playing versus when he's not, they'll tell you that they're on the greens and they can hear the roar 4 holes over, and that there is nothing that compares to the excitement of when he's present.
Better Sports Live, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, exclusively on Better Sports Network. Or listen whenever you want on the app with BSN On Demand.
We didn't do our job, Chris Moxley.
I understand.
He did not like the first segment. We have to step up our game here, okay? Hey, put it on me. It's my fault. It's my fault. The countdown to the NFL draft is on, and you need Fantasy Alarm to bet on the draft and dominate your fantasy football leagues. Plus, you get all the rookie scouting reports, your team needs, betting odds, player projections, Discord chat, and more. For a limited time, get all NFL content plus DFS playbooks for all sports for an additional 20% off the already discounted annual price with promo code NFL Draft at fantasyalarm.com. If you were just tuning in to us, Will Chudy, our producer, he lets us know. He lets us know how we did in the previous segment by what he brings us back from break with. And we did a poor job. We did not execute. And you can put it on me, Chris Moxley. You can put it on me. Before we went to break, we were getting into spring practice updates, and we were talking about UCLA's quarterback competition and why that's important. We're telling you, folks, this 2023 class of quarterbacks, this class that are freshmen in college now, it's potentially a special group. And so 3 years from now, we could see, 3-4 first-round NFL draft picks, maybe even the top 15 NFL draft picks from this class. We're telling you that now. They have not played a down of college football. Arch Manning, Jackson Arnold, Malachi Nelson at USC, and who am I forgetting? Dante
Nico
Moore.
Nico
Iamaleava at Tennessee. So this group is potentially special. All right. Chris, you were talking about the rotation There's a guy named Ethan Garber's number 1, but the important bit, not to bury the lead here, is that the freshman Dante Moore is number 2. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. I think Moore being number 2 is at least something to note. So I thought Colin Schlee, who is currently 4th, was going to be the presumptive starter. So I'm a little concerned about my projection in that aspect. He was not super impressive day 1 of practice through 4 interceptions. I think he could have had 2 more if the defense didn't drop them. So it was just not a good day for him. But again, we're through 2 days now, starting today, and today was a little bit different of a practice. We don't have a bunch of stuff to take away, but we do have a couple wide receivers saying that Dante Moore is basically the real deal. So you like to see that sort of thing. But yeah, I think it will be a very interesting battle to track.
It's an interesting battle to track. We're going to get the spring game. Actually, Will, if you could look it up and let me know, because I want our audience to pay attention to that spring game. Hopefully, we're indoctrinating some new college football fans with this show. But just to tie a bow on that conversation on UCLA, Colin Schlee was a big-time MAC quarterback who transferred up to UCLA thinking that he was a fit for Chip Kelly's scheme. You all have seen, which he is. You've seen Chip Kelly for the up-tempo, running quarterbacks, dual threat. You saw him with the Eagles. You saw him with Oregon. And Colin Schlee is that type of player. At the time he transferred, they didn't know that they were going to have this guy, Dante Moore. So, and me and Chris have had this conversation on this show and on other shows and in text messages, for a matter of fact. I'm on the side that I think that this dynamic freshman is going to be the one starting. This dynamic freshman from Detroit is going to be the one starting. Chris says, well, they've got Colin Schlee, who played MAC football last year.
No. That's a bad impression. Not nasally enough, not white enough. You got to do a better job for Mr. Ass, man.
It's going to be a struggle. But, and my point on this has been, they're both getting there at the same time. Colin Schlee doesn't have experience in this system. I don't care that he's already played college football. One guy is clearly more talented. So I think that the kid, the freshman, is going to get the job. We'll see. We'll see as the spring progresses and as we get closer to the fall. Mox, everyone is paying attention to Colorado. As we mentioned, Deion Sanders is there. Shedeur Sanders is there. How they are going to look on the field, how talented they are, remains to be seen. But what is happening out there in Boulder?
It's really interesting. So, Deion Sanders has basically stripped everyone's jersey number and said, you got to earn it, which is an interesting approach. He said,
especially considering that he named his son the starting quarterback at the introductory press conference.
Right. And so that's his approach. Earn your jersey number. But we actually had someone who did earn their jersey numbers this week, and that was Jimmy Horn Jr., the transfer from South Florida, who I actually think is a really, really impressive player. He's like 5'10", but speed, like can I think he could be a really great producer for this offense. And he was the first to earn that number. He's number 5. The other standout, though, in spring is Dylan Edwards, who is a true freshman running back. The thing about Dylan Edwards is, like, he just freaking fast. Like, that is his thing. He's really fast, undersized in terms of what we were projecting to the NFL. I'd love to see him add, like, 10, 15 pounds. I'm not sure he's going to get there. But he's, like, 185, and he's a super dynamic player. But him and Jimmy Horn have essentially taken over the practices at Colorado.
And there is reason to Colorado's going to be exciting no matter what. I mean, it just is. I bet you College Game Day is going to be there for their first home game September 9th against
offensive coordinator Sean Lewis.
Well, that's what I was going to come back to, because let's tangle the web right here.
Absolutely.
And weave the tapestry. We just talked about Colin Schlee at UCLA. His former head coach is now the offensive coordinator at Colorado for Deion Sanders. And he is known for running an up-tempo, fun spread system. He's really – I'll say that about him. He likes to play fast, so he likes to talk fast too, which is stupid to me. If you watch him talk, he said, "I like to play." It's. We should get some Sean Lewis tape because it's actually annoying. I think if you're teaching kids how to play a game,
these two things feel unrelated.
They are 100% unrelated, and and it's just that's how you know. That is how you know that that coaches are just like sometimes Neanderthals because it's just it's stupid. So UCLA practice, Will's getting back to me. UCLA's practice ends on May 5th, so that might be the date of the spring game, May 5th. It's probably going to be on Pac-12 Network to the extent Pac-12 Network still exists when the spring game is played. All right, let's go down south, back to the SEC, Chris Moxley, to Florida. What's going on down in Florida, in Gainesville?
Yeah, so freshman Aiden Mizell is actually earning a lot of praise. They think that he can be a week one contributor, which I think is pretty interesting because I don't believe that he was the highest recruited freshman. I think Eugene Wilson was.
What position? What position is Aiden?
Wide receiver.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought I had said that. Yeah, so Mizell's been doing a lot, and he's earned a lot of praise over the last week or so. The other player that's really interesting is a player that I think we at Campus2Canton were pretty high on coming into last season, and that is tight end Arliss Boardingham. He's really emerged as a potential weapon in this offense, and I actually really like what this offense could be this year. I have a lot of questions about the quarterback, Graham Mertz, who's a transfer from Wisconsin. I'm not sure that he's necessarily the guy, but I am willing to suspend belief, suspend reality. Well, I don't know what the exact term is, and just imagine the breakouts of these guys because I'm not sure that Sunbelt Billy is going to
Sunbelt Billy
unleash these guys.
Sunbelt Billy. Graham Mertz, former Wisconsin quarterback, his name makes me smile.
Another Peyton Manning comp, right?
See, that's why I was smiling. Years ago, I saw the same quick processing ability of one Graham Mertz, and since then,
he just never got better.
Yeah, he never got better. And you know what? You all never let that go. You all never let it go. I'm constantly mocked and ridiculed for I wasn't making a player comp. I was saying this is what this reminds me of. And I'm just teased, mocked, ridiculed, and made fun of. Chris, this is the question that I have for you about Florida. Whoever ends up taking these wide receiver positions, whoever ends up taking the quarterback position, do you care in a Billy Napier offense? Do you care? We're going to do a worst coach draft here later, and there is a chance that Billy Napier at Florida, that his name will be called.
There's a good chance that he is on my list, yes. I care mostly because I think Aiden Mizell is pretty good, and I think Arliss Boardingham is pretty good as well, and I don't care about tight end production when it comes to Boardingham, so that's fine. I just think Mizell might be good, and even if Billy Napier isn't the coach in like 2 years, that he just might be like a good player. So I'm not overreacting to Sunbelt Billy, but we'll see.
Well, I mentioned the coach draft. I think we're just about ready to get into it. Are you ready to get into it? What would be fair? Do you want this? It's a hard thing to do because I'm looking at record, I'm looking at recruiting classes, I'm looking at expectations. There are a bunch of things.
Oh yeah, it's tough to evaluate.
And then does the worst of the worst coaches, are they drafted first or drafted last?
No, they're drafted first.
Okay.
The worst coaches are who you're taking like 101.
Okay. All right. You ready to do it?
Oh, I'm ready.
I'm going to give you the first pick, okay?
Okay.
Drum roll, please. All right, Chris Moxley, take it away. The first pick in the worst coach in college football draft. Chris Moxley, you are on the clock.
With the first pick in the worst coaches football draft, I am taking Virginia head coach Tony Elliott. Prior to him coming to Virginia, they were 6-6. Then they went 3-9 with a horrendous offense that ranked bottom 5 in the country when we talk about EPA per play and efficiency, despite having a lot of the same players and especially the same quarterback. He was pretty terrible when he was the offensive coordinator at Clemson. I just don't think that he deserved to be promoted to the head coach level, and I think that we saw that last year. I would be surprised if he makes it past this year. So Tony Elliott at Virginia is my number one pick in the draft.
That is a really solid pick. Clemson, as you mentioned, has been terrible under Tony Elliott. How he parlayed that into a head coaching job when Virginia's strength was his offense under offensive coordinator Robert Anai, who is now at North Carolina State. It makes sense to me.
Bronco Mendenhall and Anai got screwed in that transition, by the way.
That is a very, very solid pick. All right. I kind of thought that you were going to go here. I'm going to take Texas A&M head coach Jimbo Fisher, who has done the least with the most. Won 5 games last year, the year before that 8, and the year before that in the COVID-shortened season 9, and then went 8-5 the year before that. This is a coach that has had major expectations. He's one of the 2 or 3 highest paid head coaches in the country. His buyout is over $80 million, and he continues to get number 1 ranked recruiting classes, does not turn that into production on the field, has not turned these he's had some elite offensive recruits, has not turned that into quality offensive production. Jimbo Fisher is doing, and quite frankly, Kevin Sumlin, who was the coach previously before Jimbo Fisher, Kevin Sumlin at least could claim a Heisman Trophy under his belt. Texas A&M has been somewhat of a joke in the college football community because of how bad they've performed, despite spending a whole lot of money in recruiting, and despite paying Jimbo Fisher an enormous amount of money. Some of these
fully guaranteed amount of money.
Some of these television contracts are worth less than what Jimbo Fisher is being paid. So at pick number 2, Chris Moxley, this is an easy one for me. I am taking Jimbo Fisher, head coach, Texas A&M.
That's a good pick. Had him on my list. These are only active coaches, right? We're not digging into coaches that are no longer coaching.
You got some outside looking ins. You got some honorable mentions that you want.
No, I don't want to get into it because I feel like there's a lot of former coaches that I could just roast. Chip Lindsey being one of them, has tenure at Troy, which is a disaster. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the 3rd pick of our draft. Yeah, I just got to take him. I just think he's a terrible coach. Neil Brown, the head coach at West Virginia, who has gone 5-7, 6-4, 6-7, 5-7. The only season that he was actually competent was the COVID season, and I basically discount that for every team regardless. He should have been fired last year, and he was not. This offense has been horrible. He just isn't that guy. At the end of the day, I just think he's led West Virginia down a seriously bad path on offense. They finished bottom 20, bottom 30 in all of his years there, and he's supposed to be an offensive head coach coming from Troy. This dude just isn't a good coach. He's going to be fired probably at the end of the year.
And he got a vote of confidence. Do you ever want to have a vote of confidence, by the way? I don't think you ever want a vote of confidence.
No, they brought in a new athletic director, right? And his first thing was like, we have vote of confidence in Neil Brown. And that is like, yeah, his contract drop significantly in terms of buyout money after 2022.
How far away are you from that school pushing you off the plank when they give you a vote of confidence? It's like one step.
I am legitimately surprised that they did not fire him after the 2022 season. I thought it was a show. I thought he would get fired during the season. Like that would have been my betting favorite.
And West Virginia has had some history. Rich Rodriguez, Pat White, Steve Slayton. There was one time people don't remember the fact that this is a team that was really exciting to watch. 5-7 record in 2022, 22 and 25 overall. Their last couple of recruiting classes, 2023 was ranked 43rd in the country. 2022 was 42nd in the country. 2021 was 35, but they just haven't won. And this is that is a team that has some history as being, when Rich Rodriguez was there, they were competing for New Year's Six bowl games. People don't remember that, but they were. We will get into, go ahead, Mox.
No, I was going to say, people forget that West Virginia was ranked number 2 in the country early 2000s. Obviously they didn't make the national championship, but like those Rich Rod teams are like seriously good.
They were seriously
in the old school Big East.
That's right. We're going to draft more bad coaches when we come back. It's Felix Sharpe, Chris Moxley. This is Campus to Canton on Better Sports Network.
Campus to Canton. Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.
The word genius is there. Bob Glover, it describes him. Bob, so when's the last time that Twitter defeated you? Because I've been defeated by Twitter today.
I'll tell you how Twitter defeated me one time. I had the mistaken impression that the year that Troy Polamalu won the Defensive Player of the Year, it looked like it was going to go to Clay Matthews Jr., and I tweeted it. And there was a guy on the media bus. He was like, oh, yeah, he's got it, a guy I trust. I won't tell you who it was, but his initials are Mike Garafalo. So I went with it. Got a DM from Rich Eisen, NFL Network. He goes, you sure about that? I go, oh, man. Oh, I just got this wave. Because, like, accuracy to me is really important.
Yeah.
So I'm literally on the media bus. We're just getting back from media day. We are slipping and sliding in Dallas. It's snowing. I get off the bus. I open my laptop. I am hunched over. And I just, like, literally people are passing me. Bob, what's wrong? And it was Polamalu. And Adam Schefter had retweeted me. Trey Wingo had retweeted me. I'm like, oh, I'm dead.
So when it's Polamalu, then how do you handle that? Like, what was the subsequent tweet
I think
afterward?
I said, got some bad Twitter info. I didn't put Garafalo's name on there. I had to
10 years later, you can out him. I like that. Yeah.
He wouldn't mind that. He knows the stories.
Yeah.
He actually said to me, hey, Bob, I think you might have jumped the gun on that. I was like, oh, crap. There we go.
Campus to Canton on the Better Sports Network.
Would Dion bench Shedeur?
I don't think he would.
Like, how bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 5 years? JT Shroud, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. Like, they were 131st, which is dead last in pass EPA per play. Obviously, it will be better, but how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? Like, I'm not sure he will ever either, like, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
If they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him. So I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player. So he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft. So he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. And let's remember this. He hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle. So maybe he could get one of these class of 2024 quarterbacks there to come to Colorado.
However you're invested in sports, from betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more, join our community on Better Sports Network.
It's hard not to just let the music play. I guess we bounced back, Chris Moxley, after that first segment.
We must have. Will is hooking us up with the beats, man.
Will lets us know how we did in the previous segment by the rejoin music. Attention, Better fans, you can have the Better Sports Network newsletter mailed every day, the only place to get our daily Better Bet, plus exclusive offers, program alerts, specific events, and our top moments. Register for free right now at bettersports.com. Chris Moxley, if you're just tuning in, we're doing a worst coaches draft. Please go catch last week's show where we did this the right way and we drafted coaches, the way you're supposed to, good coaches. It was only natural for us to do this and take bad coaches. The thing that's hard about this for me, Chris, is that you could just go to record and say who did the worst. You can pick somebody. I picked Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher has had high expectations and just hasn't met them despite being
that's good. That's a good pick.
It is, yeah. But there's a number of ways that you can do this. I think it's my pick here. This is my first pick in the second round here. I'm going to go. I'm struggling here because you took Neil Brown. I'm going to go with Danny Gonzalez at New Mexico. They didn't win a game in 2022, and he's been 7-24 in 3 seasons. They're in the Mountain West. He's been 3-20. The Mountain West is a fun conference, a fun offensive conference, a lot of offensive football. 3 wins, no wins in 2022. This feels like a steal, Chris Moxley. It feels like I'm getting a real value here in the second round from a coach who didn't win a game in 2022.
Yeah, and I had him on my list too, right? I mean, the toughest part of Gonzalez's tenure is that New Mexico State is actually like making huge inroads into being productive. And so when you're comparing the two universities who are like natural rivals, it makes his job look a lot worse because Jerry Kill is killing it at New Mexico State. So, I 100% agree. He is on my list of coaches that suck.
There we go. Steal. And if you put in Danny Gonzalez, he's not even the first. Like you have to scroll way down for him to come up. That's how bad of a coach he is.
Yeah, I agree with that. My turn.
It's your turn.
Okay, so if we're going like G5 coaches, then Butch Jones needs to be out of Arkansas State. He's gone 5-19 under his tenure. They were over 500 in the 11 seasons prior to him taking over. They have not made a bowl game or had a 500 season since. And Arkansas State's actually produced like really good head coaches over time. Hugh Freeze was there, Gus Malzahn was there, Brian Harsin was there, Blake Anderson, who's currently the head coach at Utah State, was there. This is a program that's honestly has like pretty good resources and it should be competitive in the Sun Belt. And Butch Jones is, for lack of a better term, butchered the program. I mean, they should be so much better than they are, and they're not. So I expect him to be honestly fired at the end of the year.
Butch Jones has been coaching for a very long time. He actually has
with very little success, by the way. His tenure at Tennessee, starting in 2013, was horrendous. He was there for 5 years. No good results. He was at Cincinnati prior to Luke Fickell. No good results. Like maybe Butch Jones just isn't just cut out to be a head coach. That's fine. Some people aren't.
He was at Central Michigan before
for
that,
a long time,
from 1998 to 2004. I mean, that's a pretty long time. If you were a coach and had Butch Jones's, there we go, and had Butch Jones's record, you would probably be okay with that. Good work, Will. All right, here we go. Chris Moxley, I'm ready to make my pick here.
Okay, go for it.
Billy Napier, head coach, Florida. And let me tell you
Sunbelt Billy.
exhibit. Sunbelt Billy, G5 Billy.
G5 Billy.
I'm not even giving him.
Great nicknames.
I'm not even giving him year 2 to put him on this list. And
He would have
here's
been.
why.
By the way, he would have been my next pick.
Oh, I've sniped you again.
It's a snipe. Yeah.
I sniped you again. He was absolutely terrible at utilizing Anthony Richardson this year. We've been talking about Anthony Richardson since the fall. People are just starting to come around like, oh, this is like one of the best athletes we've seen at the quarterback position ever. So you would think that Billy Napier would run him all over the field on creative design runs. Did not happen. They did not. Billy Napier came from Louisiana, from the University of Louisiana, ULL. They basically just took that offense and said, yep, you're going to run this. We're going to run 3-step drops. We're going to run rollouts. We're not going to do, read option, that type, RPOs, that type of stuff. We're not going to run you on quarterback dives, get creative with the play calling. We're not going to do that. And this is what's crazy to me, Chris Moxley. Again, Anthony Richardson, 6'4", 240 pounds, ran a 4.4 at the combine. He had 654 yards rushing on the season. He had games with, now mind you, he had games with 4 attempts rushing it, 4 rushing attempts, 7, 5, 1 rushing attempt, 7, 6. That's for the most freakish athlete that we've seen play the quarterback position, who is built like a fullback. They said, "Oh, we're going to deploy you in a traditional way." And I was so afraid of that happening when Billy Napier came on. I tweeted a lot about it. I'm like, I am because Dan Mullen was the coach before Billy Napier, and Dan Mullen, even though he did not start Anthony Richardson, when he would play him, he did use him in creative ways. He did stress defenses with the way that he used Anthony Richardson. For example, he would fake like he was running into the back of the line of scrimmage, would pull back, kind of like Tim Tebow used to do, and throw a ball downfield. Like, he had all kinds of plays like that he would use Anthony Richardson, and Billy Napier just didn't. It is offensive that you could have games where Anthony Richardson gets 1 carry. There will not be an NFL game in his first 3 years where Anthony Richardson gets 1 carry in a game. Not a single one.
No.
Not a single one.
Absolutely
Not a single one. In addition, now this is not his fault. In addition to him not utilizing Anthony Richardson the right way, I'm also putting on his list the Jaden Rashada debacle. Jaden Rashada, highly touted quarterback who had been signed to Florida, was supposed to go there. Because this NIL deal did not come through, Jaden Rashada, boop, out of there. He's at what? Arizona State now?
Yep.
I'm putting that on Billy Napier. First of all, if I'm a quarterback, I don't want to go to play for Billy Napier in the first place.
Heck no.
If he didn't use Anthony Richardson in ways that would put Anthony Richardson in like the best possible chance of succeeding, he's not going to do it with another player. That's a coach who's going to come in and say, I'm running my system and you're going to run what I call, as opposed to building his offense around the strengths and weaknesses of that player. So Billy Napier, that's my pick.
Yeah, I mean, Sunbelt Billy, G5 Billy, I have no issue with that. I a lot of us at Campus2Canton hated that hire in the first place. He's a G5 coach, essentially. Like, he has not proven he can recruit at a high level, and I think that he's lost out on guys like Rashada because of that in a way.
Can I ask you a question?
No, we can't ask any question.
It is stupid to preface my question with that on a radio show. So last week when we did this, Jim Harbaugh did not make the list, was not selected in that draft of coaches who are, the best coaches in the country. It doesn't seem like he's going to be and actually, I don't have any more picks. So, but I would not take him here. Is he just a middling head coach that has gotten good results in the last 2 seasons?
So it's funny, right? Like, I think good collegiate head coach versus good head coach versus good recruiter versus program manager. Like all of those things need to be considered when we're talking about a head coach. And I think Harbaugh does almost all of those things really effectively. He's flirting with the NFL essentially every offseason. So you're not going to get a high quality class out of him because there's so much risk when he steps into a recruit's home and, mom is there, grandmom's there, dad is there.
He cannot say, I'm committed here for the next 5 years.
No,
in the last two off seasons, he's flirted with. So
I think he's a fine coach for players on campus. I think his recruiting, and it suffered. Getting Jaden Davis, who's a 5-star quarterback out of Charlotte, it is a huge win for them. But generally speaking, it's tough to back Harbaugh right now, just given what he's done the last couple of offseasons. So yeah, I have some issues with him as a pick. I will not pick him here either. I did not put him here just because I think he's a really good coach. But there are reasons to be skeptical of him as a high-level coach when we talk about him compared to Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, and that James Franklin, like that level where he's at.
He's not a good recruiter, and he can't be because he's flirting with the NFL. And he does not run a modern offense that offensive recruits would want to play it. So he's kind of going to be out on any elite quarterback, which is why he just lost Dante Moore. Dante Moore went to school 45 minutes away from that.
I mean, Jaden Davis is a 5-star quarterback that he just got to commit.
Jaden Davis is not good. Yes, he did. We can talk about that. Jaden Davis is technically a 5-star quarterback in next year's class. Next year's class is very weak at the quarterback position, but yes,
it is.
Michigan did get a commitment from them this week. I want to read this tweet from RJ Young of Fox Sports.
Wait. Can I give the rest of my coaches that I?
You got some more that you were going to go. Yeah, go ahead.
So I had some at Billy as well. I actually had Mario Cristobal.
What?
Yeah, I didn't love his tenure at Oregon. I thought he basically screwed Justin Herbert there, and I felt like his first year at Miami was horrendous as well. But the one that I really wanted to highlight was actually Northwestern coach Pat Fitzgerald. I think Pat Fitzgerald is essentially dust. I don't think he's if they can afford the buyout, which they can. Northwestern endowment is enough to buy out Pat Fitzgerald. He just has not done what he needs to do the last couple of years. I just don't think he will. I just don't think he'll come back after the season. He's just been a horrendous head coach for the last couple of years. They alternated like good and bad seasons for a while, and now they've just been bad for like 3 years. And it's hard, like I think you're about to say, right? Like it's hard to recruit at a Northwestern, Stanford type program.
Yes.
But he has not set any of his players in a position to succeed in spite of that. Like he is not doing the best job he can. So I would be surprised if he was retained. So yeah, he was my final pick in the head coach's draft.
So Pat Fitzgerald, I kind of considered him, but to be honest with you, when the Detroit Lions hired Jim Caldwell, I was like, y'all need to interview Pat Fitzgerald. I wanted Pat Fitzgerald to be the next Lions head coach. So he probably
wouldn't be bad there either. It's just the college stuff is problematic.
It's hard to get in to Northwestern. It's hard to recruit there. Kurt Ferentz from Iowa. He deserves to be considered here too. I mean,
I wanted to name him, but really I wanted to break the rules and just name Brian Ferentz's son, who's the offense coordinator.
Let me give you.
He is the worst coordinator in college football. Period.
I got 20 seconds. Let me give you these stats from Michigan. You know what they've done successfully in the last couple of seasons. They didn't sign a single top 100 recruit in 2023, and they've seen just 3 5-star commitments in 4 recruiting cycles, including this one. We'll see y'all next week.